Is starting to become more of a common thing now as we go over the next couple of months. Going to stay cool, going to stay nice as we go into a brand new work week. We're kicking it off with sunshine and high temperatures up around 80 for our Monday afternoon. We'll fall back into the mid-50s overnight. A couple of spots around the farms. Outlying areas could dip into the low 50s by early Tuesday morning. The temperatures back in the low 80s for Tuesday afternoon. That's your forecast from the WSIC Weather Center. I'm meteorologist Chase Myers.
Hey, this is Jeff McNeely, owner of G&M Milling Company in beautiful downtown Lowray. We at G&M hope you come by and see us for all your livestock needs. We stock feeds for all kinds of animals and hay too. We also have seed for a wide variety of forages for your animals. So come on by 4000 Taylorsville Highway, Statesville, or call us at 704-873-5758. We're worth the drive. Thank you again for supporting small family-owned businesses. God bless.
The following is a paid program and does not necessarily reflect the views of WSIC.
All systems are a go.
Ladies and gentlemen, hold on to your seats. Taking Care of Iredell with North Carolina State Representative Jeff McNeely is about to begin. In 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Good morning, Iredell County. Yes, it's me. I'm live again. I'm back. Hey, we're going to jump right into my guest because he's got to get off here real quick. So we're going to bring up Representative Destin Hall from up in Caldwell County, our Rules Chair, and I believe our future Speaker of the House. Destin, are you with us? He hasn't. I thought he said he's on the line. It hung up on me. Try again. Yes, here we go. All right, some things just never work like you want them to, folks. That's why we love live radio. It makes interesting times. So here we go. Anyway, got a lot going on. The reason I'm having Destin on the show is basically we have a House Bill number 10. Do you got him? I think that's our man, I hope. So he's looking at it. All right, we're good. Here, we're going to bring him in here because he can't be with me long, so I don't want to prolong him. Hey, Destin, are you with us?
I'm here, my friend.
All right, we got you, and I know it ain't for a long time, but hopefully for a good time, as George Strait used to say. So let's jump right in. You're our rules chair. I think you were maybe at an event, and you ran into Phil Berger, the Senate Pro Tem over there. Maybe y'all got to talk. Tell me a little bit about what got us back together, because we kind of got broke up and left at the altar back there in July, and who knows what you got.
Well, look, it's the beauty of a bicameral legislature. Sometimes, as the Speaker said back in the summer, it's good to take a little break and then come back to it later on. And he and the whole team, of course, on each side in each chamber in the Republican caucuses continued to work even though we were out of session and got closer and closer to getting some things done. And, I'm happy with what we did get done in this bill. We're tackling some major issues that really we all agree on in both the House and the Senate in the Republican caucuses anyway. And we should be able to get those things done this week.
Well, and, I kind of felt they were, when they said they're leaving, we go, well, okay, what about this? There was a lot of timely stuff that had to be done. And so this bill is going to help fill up some of the time slots. I know broadband, trying to bring down money from the federal government. And by the way, folks, if you're getting broadband up in Upper North Iredell, this is not Biden money yet. This is North Carolina money. We're waiting to get the federal money pretty much. We haven't really got our paws in it yet. So we got that. That was about $4 billion laying out there that we had to get.
Yeah, big deal for the whole state. Big deal to my folks here in Caldwell and Watauga counties as well. And it's been our goal since we've got the majority, really, to make every part of North Carolina broadband accessible. And we've made a lot of progress on that, especially the last 5 years or so.
Yeah. And I know one of the things in here that you really, near and dear to you, your bill, trying to really get it done, and it's been laying over there, is the ICE bill. Maybe explain a little bit about what that is. That's an acronym, folks, to a point. But explain what this does and why it's so important to North Carolinians.
Yeah. So, Jeff, as you know, this thing's been going on now for about 5 years. When we first filed this bill, it goes all the way back to the 2018 election when there were a couple of really just left-wing sheriffs, or at least sheriffs who were beholden to left-wing interests, were elected for the first time. And before that, when a sheriff in this state, when they took somebody into their jail because they had been charged with a crime, and that person also happened to be here illegally in this country, if ICE wanted to detain that person, the sheriff would communicate, cooperate with ICE, and they would honor that ICE detainer. ICE, of course, is the federal agency that deals with immigration in our country. What happened after 2018? A small number of sheriffs at the time, probably 5 or so, and today it's probably less than 10 sheriffs. They just simply do not communicate with ICE at all. So they'll arrest somebody for committing the crime, just like any citizen could be arrested if they commit a crime. And then if ICE says, hey, that person there's a legal alien, they have a detainer on them, that sheriff just simply will not honor that detainer at all. And if that individual meets bail, they just let them walk right out of the jail, even though ICE is saying they have a detainer on them. We've seen the consequences of that time after time. People who have committed serious crimes, they go in, they have an ICE detainer lodged, and the sheriffs in places like Wake and Mecklenburg have let that person walk out of the jail after they meet bail, and in some instances that person has gone on to reoffend after the sheriff let them walk out, when ICE could have taken custody of them and probably prevented them from reoffending. And so it just goes back to the left, Jeff, as you know, they don't want to have a border. They want to have open borders. They don't want to enforce immigration law at all. So this bill just says the sheriff has to cooperate with ICE. It has the support of the North Carolina Sheriff's Association. Again, probably 90 or more sheriffs in the state are already doing this voluntarily. They don't have to have a law to make them do it. Unfortunately, there's that small number, probably, again, 10 or less, or 10 or fewer, who we have to pass this law for. So I'm excited we're finally getting it done. It's important to public safety in this state.
This is crazy to me. And folks, if you're wondering who some of these sheriffs and law enforcement are, just watch Josh Stein's videos or commercials he puts out for himself when there's police officers in it. Those are the ones that won't participate with ICE. Why would somebody not want to deport or get rid of somebody here illegally, especially if we figure out they're a known criminal where they're from and they're being a criminal here? It makes no sense.
It's hard to understand, Jeff. The sheriff's job is to protect his or her community. And when you don't use all the tools, and in this case, they don't cooperate with ICE, that they're not doing that at all. And, it's sad to see, but for one reason or the other, the left-wing groups have decided that they don't believe ICE should be cooperated with. And so they've convinced these sheriffs that they shouldn't cooperate with ICE. And it's really sad to see, because you see people getting hurt because of it. And the time is now to get this thing passed and do away with that insanity that we're seeing in a small number of counties in our state.
Well, like I said, I don't get it. And Josh Stein has come on commercials and said, oh, there is no sanctuary cities. But when you have places like Mecklenburg, Charlotte, Wake, Durham that don't cooperate with ICE, that kind of makes it a sanctuary city. It is.
Yeah. Not only that, Jeff, think about Iredell County. How many people are coming across the border from Mecklenburg County per day in Iredell? And so, the folks we're talking about, they obviously don't respect national borders. They're not going to respect county borders. And so the sheriff in Mecklenburg may let somebody out who has an ICE detainer on them, and that person may go right to Iredell County. And again, we're talking about somebody the federal government has a detainer on. And by the way, the federal government, they're not putting detainers on every single person here illegally. They try to focus on those who are of the criminal element. So they've got prior crimes. They've got some deportable offense. That's who we're talking about here. We're talking about not just every single person who's in this country illegally, but it's the folks who are not just here illegally, but also committing crimes, or they have committed crimes in the past, and the federal government is trying to deport them. And look, if Joe Biden's administration is trying to deport somebody, you know that they're bad news, because we know the Biden administration and Kamala Harris, they don't want to enforce immigration law either.
Yeah, she still hasn't been to the border. I think she has been to Europe now, but not the border. But anyway, we're down to the last 30 seconds, and I know you got to go. Folks, y'all got to understand, Destin, he's a young married man, and he needs to make money, so he's got a law practice he's got to keep going. But I appreciate you calling in. I appreciate your efforts to keep pushing on ICE, and I won't be able to be there on Wednesday because of a previous engagement, but I appreciate all we get done. So take care, sir. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you, my friend.
All right, folks, hang tight. Coming right back.
with us. We'll have more Taking Care of Iredell with NC Representative Jeff McNeely after these messages on 105.9 100.7 WSIC.
Well, that crisp fall air is starting to become more of a common thing now as we go over the next couple of months. Going to stay cool, going to stay nice as we go into a brand new work week. We're kicking it off with sunshine. High temperatures up around 80 for our Monday afternoon. We'll fall back into the mid-50s overnight. A couple of spots around the farms. Outlying areas could dip into the low 50s by early Tuesday morning. The temperatures back into low 80s for Tuesday afternoon. That's your forecast from the WSIC Weather Center. I'm meteorologist Chase Myers.
The WSIC app is available now wherever you get your apps, featuring local deals from great local businesses like Greystone Lodge in Boone.
Here is your WSIC community calendar. Langtree Live in Mooresville presents Fortune 5 in concert on Thursday, September 12th. Fortune 5 won the Battle of the Bands this past spring and now makes their debut on the Langtree stage. Event time is 6:30 p.m. with music powered by Waves Entertainment starting at 7. Grab your friends, family, and lawn chairs. Enjoy the shopping and dining options while at Langtree. Don't miss the music of Fortune 5 this Thursday at Langtree Live. This Friday is the next edition of the Piedmont Healthcare Friday After 5 concert series. Downtown Statesville offers free entertainment to residents, neighbors, and visitors. This week's concert features the Camel City Yacht Club, 5 musicians devoted to bringing the finest smooth rock of the 70s and 80s to you. Friday After 5 is held in downtown Statesville on West Broad Street in front of Mitchell Community College from 6 p.m. to 8:30. Beer, wine, soft drinks, and food will be available for purchase beginning at 5 p.m. Bring your chairs and enjoy a night of music this Friday in downtown Statesville. The WSIC gang is back at Micaiah's in Mooresville for Trivia Night Tuesday, September 17th. Grab your squad, form your team, or come play solo and join WSIC on-air personalities as we gather for a fun game of trivia. We'll see you September 17th at Micaiah's in Mooresville. The NHRA returns to ZMAX Dragway September 20th through the 22nd for the Carolina Nationals. When the temperature cools down, the excitement heats up at the Bellagio of drag strips. Every ticket is a pit pass, giving fans unmatched access to the drivers and crews who power the NHRA's thunderous 11,000 horsepower machines to their limits. Visit CharlotteMotorspeedway.com for information, tickets, and details. To keep up with all the events happening around the community and much more, including amazing local deals, download the WSIC News app today.
Hi, this is Bob McIntosh with the McIntosh Law Firm in Davidson. Since 1997, we have been committed to providing our clients with competent, caring, and experienced legal services. Learn more at McIntoshLawFirm.com.
For 42 years, Johnson's Parts and Supply has been your Auto Plus auto parts store. When you need auto parts, think Johnson's Parts and Supply. Your Auto Plus auto parts store, 1112 Shelton Avenue, Statesville.
It's Taking Care of Iredell with NC Representative Jeff McNeely on 105.9 100.7 WSIC. Local starts here.
All right, back here before we go to the half of the show here. We take callers now, actually. So it's going to be a little different today. We're going to have a lot of time if somebody wants to call in and talk. So the number is 844-788-3464. That's 844-788-3464. Sorry, I've been gone a lot here lately. It seems like August got to be one of those months where I was all over the place, and then Labor Day. But I feel like I'm going to show up for work pretty much regularly now, Joe, if they'll keep going ahead and, send me the checks and whatnot. Actually, it works the other way around. I send the checks, and whether I'm here or not. But anyway, it's good to always be back, and love to talk to my listeners and my constituents, my friends, my people out there in Iredell County. So give me a holler. Let me know what's on your mind this morning. We'll talk about whatever. I'm going to talk a little bit more about House Bill 10. Sorry, Destin couldn't hang with me longer, but like I said, he's preparing for a huge case, and he's got to get it done because there's a vote on Wednesday coming up, and so he's going to be in Raleigh, so he's got to get it done today and tomorrow and be able to get that brief filed, and I appreciate him taking time out of his busy schedule to call and talk a little bit because ICE is the ICE immigration bill our deportation bill was really important to him. He worked really hard on it, and it went over to the Senate. And, we just had a lot of poor communication, I guess, between both sides and come to just an impasse. And so this is a bill that really needed to be passed. And so it looks like we're finally going to get it. Now, one thing that is going to be passed also in this mini budget is we're going to go and fully fund the opportunity scholarships. And that's a pretty big lift right there because we had a huge amount of people. And I don't know if by not getting funding for that third and fourth tier, if that affected people, whether they didn't go to the school they really wanted to and ended up maybe going back. I know it's not going to be a lot of money, but it is going to be some monies. And it is your tax dollars following your child. And I think that's very important. So it's going to be funded back to you and paid basically in arrears what you're going to get. So that's going to be one of the things. Senate really wanted that, and that's about all they wanted. So we had to negotiate that. But now there was some other things that were real critical too. One of the things in it, we've actually had a pretty big enrollment in K-12 and in community college both. So we actually had to go back in and refigure our allotment that we needed to do. So K-12 and community college both are getting money also in this, not just opportunity scholarships alone. So all of education. Matter of fact, it's about a $730-some million mini budget, and probably close to 600 million of it is for education in some form or another, whether it be public K-12 or whether it be the vouchers, the opportunity scholarship. So a lot of the money spent that we had left over went to education in some form or another to help. If not, school systems are going to be upside down because of the increases. We keep having people move to North Carolina. I think it's because it's a great place to live, and we do a good job of help governing our people. And that is a plus. One of the things, though, that I also mentioned, too, that I think is really important in this is broadband. And we had a time, actually, we got till the end of the year, but when you walk away in July and you're not sure if you're coming back, that made things a little antsy. There's about $4 billion worth of federal money from one of whatever. And maybe it was on Build Back Better or the Inflation Reduction Act, which actually caused reflation instead of reducing it. Whichever program it was, I don't know. They spend so much money so fast in D.C., it's hard for me to keep up with the different products out there that they're putting. But anyway, $4 billion come to North Carolina for broadband. So this is kind of to help finish up the harder and harder to get to areas. Maybe it's also going to motivate some of the ones in actually more populous areas. Ours is a little different here in Iredell County. We've actually got at least 3 providers I know in my district, and they're on a timeline, and some have moved quick, and some are moving really slow. And folks, I wish I had the ability to make business move at the speed I want it, but unfortunately I don't. We've gave parameters. So it looks like Xeris has took theirs and went with it as fast as anybody, and that's wonderful. So actually some of our harder to reach places are going to get cable first, or not cable, but I should say internet first. I guess it's biblical. Those who are last shall be first. There you go. So we're getting that part done, and then hopefully we'll fill up back down towards, Statesville, towards the more populous areas. But this will help. This will get us $4 million. Also, a couple of things in this bill too. One that I thought was good. We'd kind of, whenever you do a budget, you sometimes miss some places. It's hard. You're talking about spending 30-some plus $1 billion, and there's a lot of hands out and this, that, and the other. But we have to keep up our facilities across the state, our public buildings and our parks and our historical places. So cultural resources, which actually falls underneath some of my purview as far as money goes. We actually needed to make sure we funded some capital projects. We did, but like a lot of things in this, I'm calling it Harris economics now instead of Biden economics. Harris economics landscape, they were more expensive to do than we thought, and it's because of the inflation of goods and services and labor. So we had to come back and readjust and put money in to help keep up a couple of our historical sites, actually about a half a dozen, that took more money. And here you go. So it's just somewhere all the time. Also, we realized that we had to increase and help with National Guard. Once again, cost of living, cost of everything. and we had to add to the National Guard retirement because they needed a cost of living adjustment because of the economy. And folks, if you're not thinking about the economy when you walk in the booth and vote in November, then I truly believe you're not thinking. If you can't understand what all's gone on in just the last three and a half years, well, it's not real hard to figure out. Everything you look at has gone up. And you keep hearing the other side talk about, oh, well, they could come down on their prices. They could do this. Well, whenever you raise the price of everything drastically, even when inflation may ease some, the problem is you had to give your employees raises and help them every way they could survive because it was basically hitting them the hardest. Inflation hits people with lower incomes harder than anything else you can about do to them. It's this unseen tax. And we had put close to about a 25% tax if you really looked at all the things that went inflation. You got to understand, when they look at the inflation number, they do not include petroleum and they do not include food. Isn't that handy how the government doesn't put two things that are just pretty much essential in there and doesn't include that, so your index doesn't look as bad a lot of times. But we all know that that's not true. And so a lot of people got raises. So no matter what, even if the commodity seems to come down, the cost of making it, moving it, getting it to the consumer is up, and it will remain up. I don't know of anybody, hardly you can go in and tell them you're going to start taking money away from them and see how long you keep them as an employee. It doesn't last quite that long. They'll be leaving, finding a different place, especially if they're a good employee. And you had to raise the good employees. Make sure that you had good, competent labor. I run a small business. I saw this with myself. We probably saw close to a 20% increase in salaries just in the last couple of years just to keep people kind of where they were. They're not doing better. They're not 20% off better. They're even because everything cost them 20% more. I truly believe a lot of this was Bernie Sanders when he was running for president there in 20, talking about he wanted to get a $15 minimum wage and make sure this and that. Well, what the socialists don't understand is whenever you set something up, they decided they're going to spend money. They got their raise in the minimum wage pretty much by doing this to business through their inflationary efforts of spending. So they created an artificial minimum wage out there, folks. Just about everybody out there is making, that's got any skill set and been involved, making a fairly decent looking salary on paper until you try to take it and purchase with it. And then you realize you're just as bad off or worse off than you were 4 years ago. Most worse off. I had a lady try to tell me that she was in better shape than she was in 4 years ago. And I said, well, I don't know if you understand math. I don't think she did. If she sat down and looked at it, there's no way, because it's about a 22% average increase across the board in prices. So unless she was able, her small business, to go up 25% on her product, and that would just put her pretty much breaking even, I see no way, no how. So a lot of things we did, like I said, spent a good bit of money. That left about $116 million out there. One thing I would have liked to have done that we did not get done was to try to either come in and maybe do a bonus, do something for K-12 teachers, because they're feeling the same pain as I've just been talking about with their salaries. Even though we gave 7% raise, they're looking at 20-some% inflation when you look at it on the average. And so it's not really wanting to work out too well. So I wish we could have done that, and I hope we will. And we will give raises. I just thought this would be a supplemental raise on top of the 7% that we already had in the budget. And they should have received their 3%. They got 4 last year and 3 more this year. So they should have got that back in July. But I'd hope to maybe do at least a one-time bonus or get another 1 or 2%, anything to help ease the pain that we're feeling right now from poor fiscal policy that we're seeing coming out of Washington, D.C. Always remember this. In North Carolina, we have to have a balanced budget. We cannot spend more than we take in. We're not allowed to go borrowing. Now, we money to cover our basic needs. Now, we do bonds on roads and maybe even some buildings and this, that, and the other, but basically we have to live within our means. Wouldn't it be wonderful to live within our means if we were the federal government? Could you imagine? Right now they're bringing in about $4 trillion and they're spending about 6 to 7 trillion a year. So you do the math. What company, what household, who could live like that? Not for long. All right, folks, stay tuned. Call in the second half of the show. Love to hear from you. Got more to talk about. Hang in there.
There's more Taking Care of Iredell with North Carolina Representative Jeff McNeely on the way from 105.9, 100.7 WSIC.
Well, that crisp fall air is starting to become more of a common thing now as we go over the next couple of months. Going to stay cool, going to stay nice as we go into a brand new work week. We're kicking it off with sunshine and high temperatures up around 80 for our Monday afternoon. We'll fall back into the mid-50s overnight. A couple of spots around the farms. Outlying areas could dip into the low 50s by early Tuesday morning. The temperatures back into low 80s for Tuesday afternoon. That's your forecast from the WSIC Weather Center. I'm meteorologist Chase Myers.
For 42 years, Johnson's Parts and Supply has been your Auto Plus auto parts store. When you need auto parts, think Johnson's Parts and Supply. Your Auto Plus auto parts store, 1112 Shelton Avenue, Statesville.
Hey, this is Jeff McNeely, owner of G&M Milling Company in beautiful downtown Lowray. We at G&M hope you come by and see us for all your livestock needs. We stock feeds for all kinds of animals and hay too. We also have seed for a wide variety of forages for your animals. So come on by 4000 Taylorsville Highway, Statesville, or call us at 704-873-5758. We're worth the drive. Thank you again for supporting small family-owned businesses. God bless.
Are you concerned about losing your house if you go into a nursing home? Contact Crosswhite Law to learn about protecting your home. Crosswhite Law is here to protect you. Call 704-873-7233. CrosswhiteLaw.com.
Looking for a large private room for your next work function? Or maybe you need a place to bring the whole family for a delicious meal? Pomodoros of Mooresville has the perfect space for your crowd. Book your next event at Pomodoros.com.
This is a Bloomberg Money Minute. It's still summer, but don't tell that to major retailers. Now that the back-to-school shopping season is over, with the kids back in school, the chains are quickly pivoting to the holidays. And a press release that begins with the phrase, "'Tis the season," Walmart today has unveiled its annual top toys list. Target is launching a holiday blitz today for your pet, calling it the Cuddle Collab. The new collection of 180 items will feature accessories for dogs, cats, and humans, as well as pet-themed plush toys, treats, and home decor. The holidays won't be as happy for Big Lots. As expected, the discount chain has filed for bankruptcy protection, but it's also secured $700 million financing to keep its operations going. With both assets and liabilities of up to $10 billion, Big Lots is entertaining buyout offers. Wall Street is following up a negative week with positivity so far. Dow, NASDAQ, S&P 500 each are gaining between 0.5% and 1%. Andrew O'Day, Bloomberg Radio.
Call now to speak with NC Representative Jeff McNeely at 844 Studio 4. It's Taking Care of Iredell on 105.9, 100.7 WSIC.
All right, back here with the second half of the show. Like I said, if anybody would like to call in, 844-788-3464. Love to hear from you. I know I've been gone. Probably think this is recording, but it's me. It's not Memorex. Oh, that shows you how old I am. I'm very old. That was an old ad. One thing I did not mention, too, also in House Bill 10, there's a part in there for Medicaid adjustment, and that come into play. It's about 10 or 15 million there, and basically that's where we expanded Medicaid, if y'all remember, last year. Not real favorable of that. I felt like we probably set up a lot of people not to go to work because of it, but I understand the need for medical care. Believe me, I know how expensive it is, so I get it. It's a double-edged sword. But about 115 million more than we had projected that we've had to come up with to make sure that that Medicaid doesn't go bankrupt in North Carolina. It has money to fund itself through the end of the next July, the 25th. So let's get into a few things out there. Like I said, give me a holler if you want to. If not, I'm going to roll on here and see where we're at. Joe, make sure you catch me because I'm in it. So anyway, the debate is coming up tomorrow night, 9 p.m. I don't know why we have it so late. It'd be nice for children to be able to watch it, but at 9 p.m. they need to be in the bed. So I don't understand this, but I guess maybe this helps people on the West Coast. That's the only thing I can figure. The mics will be muted like the last time. I think that's a grand idea. Let each person have their time to talk. I think in the case of Kamala or Kamala, I'm still trying to figure out which is the appropriate term. I've heard both sides and each of them use different names. But anyway, Kamala, let her talk. I'd love to hear from her. She really hasn't done a unscripted interview since she got nominated at the Democrat National Convention. So this should be interesting if we get to actually hear what she's thinking. Might be just real quiet in the room like crickets, but, we're willing to listen to what she's thinking. She hasn't really done anything we can see so far. Made a lot of, I guess I'd say, unfounded statements as far as instead of price gauging, price gauging. I think they figured out they pronounced it wrong and went back to price gouging. But, it's going to be interesting to see how all this shakes out. I know at the DNC, they had 2 fences you had to go through and show your ID supposedly 8 times to enter. So it'll be interesting when they get into the immigration part, which is supposedly the one thing that we pretty sure she's supposed to have been over. And, that's become crazy how they've poured across the border into the United States. And now it's forcing us to spend hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars to keep them up. They don't believe in fences and really IDs, but they did at the Democrat National Convention. Crazy how that works. So she's been prepping in Pennsylvania, and I got a sneeze coming, so bear with me here 1 second. I hope it don't come too quick. Had a lot of Hollywood influence help doing her, so I figure she'll put on a good act when she comes out on stage, and so it'll be interesting to see how their prep work's done. I think she's been buried since last week, making sure she has all the right answers. I feel like if you do the job every day, like the vice president should, she should have a lot of just common knowledge floating around from the things they do every day. But obviously they're going to talk about some stuff maybe that is not common, like the economy, the border, foreign policy, stuff like that. That stuff they rarely mention, I guess, probably. Anyway, there's a lot of sarcasm in that. But this will be big for her. I just wait to see, our state motto is better to be than seem. And I got a feeling with Kamala, it's going to be better to seem than to be, the exact opposite. So, this really comes down to, ladies and gentlemen, are you looking for a certain type of person to be your president, or are you concerned with the policies and the governing that the president will do? And that's where we're kind of at in this country. Do we have to really just fall in love and like somebody, or do we want somebody that's qualified, can do the job? Maybe they bristle your feathers a little bit. Maybe you just don't think they're a good person. I don't know. But that's kind of where we're at. And that's what's going to be on display at this debate. And I'm sure there'll be a lot of laughter and joy from her side. And of course, there'll be a lot of mean and serious old man from the Trump side. And we'll see if Donald will be able to control his temper, because he has one kind of. We'll see if she goes after it. I'm sure she's going to call him a felon or a convict or something. She's going to try to rely on her days as being a district attorney to try to poke the bear. She may be pretty good at that. I don't know. She didn't put a whole lot of people in jail, and if she did, they let them out. So it'll be curious to see how that part plays out. But that's exactly where we're at as in America. Are we looking for policy, or are we looking for some kind of a figurehead? And the president, folks, really is more than just a figurehead. It's an actual office. Its executive orders mean and matter to us. It affects us. So we need somebody that actually understands policy, actually has real policies that work. I don't know what an opportunity economy is. I don't believe Kamala Harris knows what an opportunity economy is. So we'll see how this all goes. But it's gonna be an interesting time. This will be big for her. I feel like there's a lot of pressure on her. And there's some pressure on Donald Trump, but he's been there before, and Donald Trump's going to do what Donald Trump does. But let's see what she says. So, like I said, once again, anybody want to call in? Oh, we do have somebody. Well, hey, magic. I mentioned it. We get it. So let's go ahead and take him before I go into my next little segment. Hey, this is Representative Jeff McNeely. Who we got?
Mr. Howell, brother. How you doing?
Hey, Mr. Howell. How you, sir?
Oh, you got it, man. What I was calling for, sir, since wasn't nobody else trying to call, I'm just going to say what I'm going to say to
lay it on me. Lay it on me.
And as far as that, the radio listeners go, if the Democrats get put back in office, our country is doomed. Even our community and our state is doomed. And then also, everybody need to quit trying to look at personal things and look at the best person that can take care of the policies, like you said, and do the job of the country, take care of the country. And we know that ones that's up there that have been in there have not done that. And the ladies that they got in there, I'm not trying to, talk down on nobody, which I don't do that, because that's stupid to try to talk down on somebody. Can't nobody talk about nobody. If the truth been told, some of the Democrat Party need to be put in jail. But see, the thing is, everybody always looking at, this is what most of us look like, even in the church. They look at the wrong that we done and don't look at the good we done. You can do a whole lot of good and somebody do one wrong thing, then they looking at that. That's human nature. But the thing is, I'm just saying, I believe our president is the one. Our president now that's coming in, Donald Trump. He's the predestined one that the Lord, I believe, is wanting to be in office or can be there to do the job to take care of this country. That's all I got to say.
He sure spared him. I know that. Somebody had to look after him. When you get shot in the ear, I don't know how that. I don't know how much more divine guidance and protection you can get and walk away. All right, Tim. I think you may. Are you still there, Mr. Howell? No, you lost him. Okay, he's got points. He's got points. Let me get off of this here right here. Before we get in my next segment here, I think he's just hit the nail. Do you want to take the chance, or do you don't? It's not really a chance. Do you want to endure 4 more years or more of the same kind of policies and stuff we've seen for the last 3? And you've got to ask yourself, are you better off now than you were basically 4 years ago? And that counts being stuck in the middle of a pandemic. That's the question. Are you better off being stuck in the middle of a pandemic is bad. But let's go back a little farther. Let's go back to 18 and 19, where we actually saw policy work, and 16 and 17, where we thought things really happened. That's the question. And at this point, somebody's got to get in. And I don't know if Trump's going to do it or not, but we got to have somebody up there with some kind of fiscal responsibility to rein in this spending. We cannot spend $6-7 trillion a year, and a lot of it on all kind of different programs and giving money out to everything, and only take in 4. And the answer is not to go out and say, well, all these people need to pay their fair share. We need to get the rich people to pay their fair share. Well, the tax code's going to have to be changed dramatically if you think that's going to happen. They have the money and the ability to hire lawyers and hire accountants, specialize in our tax code to figure out how for them to pay the least they can. Us common people, normal people like us, we've got to figure out our own way through the tax code, unfortunately. We may be able to have an accountant, and they'll give us some advice, but we don't have the means and whatnot to move the needle. So we're going to be on the hook. They always say, oh, we're not going to do anything. We're not going to, do anything to anybody making less than $400,000 a year, or this big number, and everybody says, oh, that don't include me. Well, let me tell you how inflation put a tax on you, folks. Because they thought they could get an intake more of money, they went about spending like crazy and drove up the deficit $7.5 trillion. We're now at $35 trillion in debt. $35 trillion in debt. Every man, woman, child, it's about $120,000 a piece is what it'd take. And the debt moves every day with interest, so you can't catch it. It's almost impossible. We've set this up. So, and you can talk about everybody give $10. That's wonderful. If they don't quit spending, You ain't changing a thing. And they won't quit spending. Somehow, some way or another, there has to be a balanced budget amendment put in our Constitution. Wish the Founding Fathers would have done that first. They did a great document. That's probably the one thing they forgot to do, was put that in. Hang tight. Coming up with the last part of the show. You can call if you want.
Keep it right here. Taking Care of Iredell with NC Representative Jeff McNeely will return after this short break on 105.9, 100.7 WSIC.
Well, that crisp fall air is starting to become more of a common thing now as we go over the next couple of months. Going to stay cool, going to stay nice as we go into a brand new work week. We're kicking it off with sunshine. High temperatures up around 80 for our Monday afternoon. We'll fall back into the mid-50s overnight. A couple of spots around the farms. Outlying areas could dip into the low 50s by early Tuesday morning. The temperatures back into low 80s for Tuesday afternoon. That's your forecast from the WSIC Weather Center. I'm meteorologist Chase Myers.
Here is your WSIC community calendar. Langtree Live in Mooresville presents Fortune 5 in concert on Thursday, September 12th. Fortune 5 won the Battle of the Bands this past spring and now makes their debut on the Langtree stage. Event time is 6:30 p.m. with music powered by Waves Entertainment starting at 7. Grab your friends, family, and lawn chairs. Enjoy the shopping and dining options while at Langtree. Don't miss the music of Fortune 5 this Thursday at Langtree Live. This Friday is the next edition of the Piedmont Healthcare Friday After 5 concert series. Downtown Statesville offers free entertainment to residents, neighbors, and visitors. This week's concert features the Camel City Yacht Club, 5 musicians devoted to bringing the finest smooth rock of the 70s and 80s to you. Friday After 5 is held in downtown Statesville on West Broad Street in front of Mitchell Community College from 6 p.m. to 8:30. Beer, wine, soft drinks, and food will be available for purchase beginning at 5 p.m. Bring your chairs and enjoy a night of music this Friday in downtown Statesville. The WSIC gang is back at Micaiah's in Mooresville for Trivia Night Tuesday, September 17th. Grab your squad, form your team, or come play solo and join WSIC on-air personalities as we gather for a fun game of trivia. We'll see you September 17th at Micaiah's in Mooresville. The NHRA returns to ZMAX Dragway September 20th through the 22nd for the Carolina Nationals. When the temperature cools down, the excitement heats up at the Bellagio of drag strips. Every ticket is a pit pass, giving fans unmatched access to the drivers and crews who power the NHRA's thunderous 11,000 horsepower machines to their limits. Visit CharlotteMotorspeedway.com for information, tickets, and details. To keep up with all the events happening around the community and much more, including amazing local deals, download the WSIC News app today.
Now, more Taking Care of Iredell with North Carolina Representative Jeff McNeely on 105.9, 100.7 WSIC.
All right, back here with the last part of the show. We'll jump off of that wagon that we've been on with the debate and what's not going on, and we'll move on to the next one, which is more closer to home. It seems like the North Carolina Democrat Party is having a fun time over there. There seems to be a pretty big split going on, although they've been able to keep it out of the news. You know, everything's been quite quiet. The media hadn't picked up like it usually would on the Republican thing. But the split really seems to be forming over the pro-Hamas and pro-Jewish stances with inside that crowd. It's kind of funny. I feel like the same thing was going on inside of the North Carolina Republican Party. Oh, Lord. The N&O and the Charlotte Observer and any other left wing, whatever, would be all over it. But they've kind of just left this be. But there's a lot of things that don't make sense. And the North Carolina North Carolina Democratic Party. Actually, I'm trying to make sure I find it here, but I got to lay my hands on it. But they talked about basically what they believe, and in their platform, it basically said that we should review all laws conducting to remove basically all penalties for illicit hard drug use, even prostitution. Now, this is in their platform, and a mailer was sent out, and they kind of were appalled that the Republicans or conservatives would run a mailer out saying that they, don't believe in people being arrested for doing these things. But yet they didn't deny that it wasn't in their platform. They were just upset because it was basically called out. Thought that was kind of unusual. Didn't deny it, just not happy that you pointed that out to everybody. I think if you don't want it out there, you shouldn't put it in your platform. So this is a lot of fun just to watch it goes here. I was really wanting to find, I got to dig through here and find my quote now. I thought I had, in an interview, says here, studies show that throwing people who have drugs addiction jail doesn't help, but it also talks about the prostitution side of this. So it's just kind of out there, I think. I don't know. I think if you don't enforce the laws you have, then obviously when do you start enforcing some and not others? And that's a slippery slope. But on top of it, whatever you don't enforce and stop, you'll get more of it. And evidently that drug use and prostitution is something they don't mind having more of. So we'll just see how that works out for them. All right, one of the big things I did want to talk about too is, and this comes from the Congressional Budget Office. So, you know, they're not left, they're not right, they're numbers people. I'm usually impressed with them. I've noticed a lot of times whenever the Democrats have passed something, they tell you how much it's going to end up costing the country in real dollars. And they've said the same thing about Trump tax cuts, how, you know, this was going to increase the deficit. And there's a point to that. It was right. I'm not going to deny. Hopefully the gamble was you grow the economy and eventually you get more taxes back in and it ends up working in a better thing, but it's got to take a while to make it happen. And then COVID hit. So we never got to prove to them that it actually would work. So meantime, they showed a hit to the national debt. But what they have come out and stated, and nobody really talked about it once again, because it doesn't look good at this time, is 9 million people have crossed over or come into our country either illegally or legally through immigration. And they're saying about 2.5 million are somewhat legal. They either here on visas or green cards or something. But that 9 million people influx has really changed the way our economy is kind of working. And that is why we really haven't fell into a recession, but we are moving in that direction. The jobs report just come out, showed an uptick, so things are not looking good. I can tell you right now, the jobs that are being created, they're either involving the government and or medical. You've heard me talk about this with the expansion of Medicaid in most states, and then Medicare as we continue to get older. It's basically the same thing. So if they're in healthcare, the government more than likely is subsidizing a large part of the patients that go into the hospital, and so they're needing more workers. So the two growing, really only sectors growing, are government workers and healthcare workers who are supplemented by the government through us, the taxpayers. So, and the thing that it really said, looking at from the state of congressional budget management, this is not doable because we are coming up. Right now, we are spending close to $700 billion on different parts of the illegal immigration that's coming into our country, whether it's trying to keep them out or keeping them up, keeping them alive, keeping them here. And how is their ability, if they're here illegally, how's their ability to work? What part of that of the sub-economy is that coming into play? They are working at a discounted rate, I'll guarantee you. Somehow or another, they're using somebody else's green card. Things are happening. So jobs have gotten filled by these people that have come here illegally. It'd be wonderful if we used our regular immigration system like we have, that's worked for the last almost 250 years. Instead of just crossing a border and figuring out a way. And then eventually you hear Harris and Biden both talking about pathways to citizenship. So now we've allowed you to circumvent our laws and we're going to reward you for it. And in the meantime, you'll have a court date that's about 3 years out now, from what I understand. Most of them are in Texas, so they're about 3 years out on their immigration court date. So you'll wander around this country for 3 years. and kind of do it halfway legal because you're still waiting on your court date. So that makes it okay for you to stay here, even though you don't really have any kind of citizenship. You don't have any visa. We really can't track you. We don't know where you are unless you come to get assistance from us. And most of them are. They're getting help in some way or another. And that money right now, from what I understand, is being pulled out of our Social Security system to help pay. This is kind of the interest payment on the money there, even though we have IOUs in the drawer from the federal government where they borrowed from it before. So the money's kind of coming through that segment, and that's why you're not seeing a lot of congressional acts on it. They're just pulling it, using it. They're not actually coming up with a law that says we have to spend this much money. They don't really want you to know what we're doing. That bothers me. All right, next step I got for you, the Trump trial has been postponed, and that's his sentencing trial to November the 26th. I will say the judge did realize this is an unusual circumstance, and he felt like it needed to happen after the election. I guess I applaud him for that. I'm sure one way or another that the Dems are going to use that to say that, you know, he can't even serve because he's going to do jail time. Well, there'll be an appeal once this trial's finally ended with a sentence. There'll be an appeal filed, if not already, because there were so many different things that didn't happen in that trial that should have to have got justice. So this is going to be a real interesting debate to see how they use that little tidbit as far as Kamala versus Trump. Will she pull up anything? I don't know. I do know this. It's kind of, I hate to use the word comical, and I'm going to pull it up and let you look at it a little bit. But right now, Washington's new favorite subprime lender, and that's somebody that's actually kind of giving money away, is none other than Uncle Sam himself. In a little notice report, once again, the Congressional Budget Office estimated that the feds will lose $65.2 billion on risky loans and other credit assistance in the next financial year. Now, because of the way they're doing this through loans, it's not showing up really the way it should in our accounting system. So it's pretty clever. So federally, they play this fictional accounting rules, which don't account under the market risk for the loan. So in other words, it's still on the books and looks like it's going to come in, but then they end up having the default. And it says now that they're coming up and saying they're only going to lose about $2.5 billion on loans and loan guarantees. That'd be the White House, but the Congressional Budget Office says it's more like $65 billion. And a lot of this was done through like Energy Department, different government agencies. The Biden administration's been real clever on that. They figured out that, you know, if we don't actually put it to the right different agencies, then nobody can probably track what's actually happening. So the Energy Department, and I talked about this a couple shows ago, they got $350 billion in loans and credit guarantees that they can give out. This is on top of the $1.2 trillion for other climate spend and tax credits that's going to happen over the next decade. And I told you a lot of these are getting paid back in what I would consider blue states, ones that are pretty friendly to D.C. right now. And so they're also saying the Department of New Loans and Guarantees for the field, there's going to be about $13.5 billion written off. So, and that's to the Department of Energy, which I'm not even sure why we have. That should be one of the departments, and you've heard him talk about the Department of Education, that Trump was going to get rid of it. I think he ought to get rid of the Department of Energy also. It was created by Jimmy Carter's administration back there when oil prices went high. We have an ungodly amount of people in Washington that work for the Department of Energy, and I'm not really sure what they do. I don't think nobody really understands exactly what they do. Pretty much like the Federal Department of Education, either we need to get rid of the state ones and maybe the local ones, I know at least the state level, if we're going to have mandates come down from federal, or are we going to allow the states to figure out how they want to educate their children? And I'm pretty sure, according to the 10th and 14th Amendment, that's the way it should be done. So, with that being said, we're going to go ahead and pray for this country and pray for all out there, because Lord knows we need it. Dear Heavenly Father, dear Lord, we just thank you. We thank you for all you do for us. You have allowed this country to survive as long as it has, and it's a blessing, Lord. And we pray we turn our face towards you and that you bless us and watch over us. lead and guide us. I feel like, Lord, we are not paying attention to your laws and rules, and we need to come and put ourselves on our knees and honor you and be with all the ideas that you have, not us. In Jesus Christ's name, amen. Amen. Folks, until next week, take care.
You've been listening to North Carolina Representative Jeff McNeely. Join Jeff again next Monday morning at 11:05 for Taking Care of Iredell on News Talk WS.